New Radio Sports Network and 104.1 WRLU, another edition of the show with Coach Pat Mikesch, who, Coach, we were joking before we came on here. You have a nice flair for the dramatic when it comes to these games against Muskegon. Have you kind of come down from the highs of those two games this weekend, 2 one-goal matchups, including the game winner in overtime for your team?
Well, like we talked about off the air, I think it's 5 straight games against them now that have been 1-goal games. 3 of them played in overtime. So I think that's how evenly our two teams match up. And I don't expect it to change next time we go over to visit them.
And what is it about your teams being so evenly? Is it kind of just your offensive approach? Is it just that your speed matches their speed? I mean, can you put a finger on why those games have just kind of shook out the way that they have?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the balance of the teams and the makeups are very similar. They have very good depth up at their forward group as well. And then offensive defensemen. So it seems like, there's always going to be goals scored and you're going to get your chances in return. So it's just been a good matchup, I think, for both teams. They like to play a similar style.
And we're getting to that point of the year as well, where obviously football is in the rearview mirror. And, people can kind of focus a little bit more on hockey locally. And, if you haven't seen the highlight, this is for our viewers. If you haven't seen the highlight of that game-winning goal from Saturday, that's got to give you goosebumps, Coach, because not only nice play on the breakaway, but you can just see everybody in the stands just going nuts. Over 4,000 people at the Resch on Saturday. And, this has to be why you kind of put on the suit and step into the Resch Center a few times each month.
And we talk about it with our guys. This is that fun time of the year. The crowds are going to be great. The events planned around the games are always exciting for the fan base. And I thought Friday's crowd was loud as could be as well. And so, it brings a great atmosphere for the players and it makes a great event.
Now, this weekend, we'll have 2 games on 104.1 WRLU, Chicago on Friday, Cedar Rapids on Saturday. You'll go to Cedar Rapids on Sunday. And talk about just kind of the difference between these two teams. One team you're obviously very familiar with. You've seen Chicago several times over the last few weeks. Cedar Rapids, not as much.
No, and, that Chicago group, what is it going to be? Game 6, I think, against them already. So they, we know their transition game. We played very well down in their building 2 weeks ago. And, I would expect them to have a good pushback after that, how we took it to them in their own building. But their top end players are so good. We have to be aware when they're on the ice and be able to defend that. But at the same time, we've had our success and we get our opportunities against them as well. And then it'll be a kind of a flip of the page against a Cedar Rapids team, which is, the most physical team over on our division. And so it kind of changes from a wide open game. They're going to want to make it as tight checking as they can. And so, we'll talk with our group about, how things change from one night to the next. But, I think when we are at our best, it's us dictating everything. So I'd really like, us to take advantage of our speed and our transition against that group.
Are there positive and negatives? It's been a while since you faced Cedar Rapids. Is there positive and negatives to, having such a layoff between, your last games between each other?
Yeah, I don't know if there's that. It's just refamiliarizing yourself with what matchups worked for us against them in the past and kind of see, when it's been 2 months, who are they playing with who now and what's their top line look like at this point? Because I'm sure they've had the same evolution with some of their younger players that we've had. And so it'll be important that we get some good quality film on what they're doing, but also, who's playing with who and maybe something that matches up well for us.
And you mentioned that, how Chicago plays is a lot different than how Cedar Rapids plays. Having faced most of the league at this point, is there another, I guess, pendulum swing, if you will? What's maybe the biggest swing you can think of between playing styles between the teams that you've faced so far?
Yeah, Cedar Rapids will be the tightest checking that we've seen. A lot of the rest of our league lives off transition and speed, and Mark's got his team, dialed in through the middle of the ice. You're not going to get your odd numbered rushes that you're going to get against some of the other groups. So it's going to be a lot about puck management and trying to make them defend in their own end. But that's kind of the fun part about our division is, you get to see different looks from different teams, and it's great to see how the players adjust to it.
And you get to go to Cedar Rapids on a Sunday afternoon after what could be kind of relatively late night for hockey the night before at your place. Do you like these road trips? How do you get your team kind of prepared for a unique one like this? Because it's not like you're going for another 7:00 game in Cedar Rapids. It's a 4:05 start.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a longer travel than we had on our last 3-3, but everybody in the league plays them. When they come onto your weekend dates, you want to be healthy and be able to use everybody you have in your lineup and use them wisely. So it'll be a good test for us. We'll be, I think, probably get out of the building here around 11 o'clock on Saturday night and back on the bus at 7 a.m. So it'll be a quick turnaround that way. But the guys are able to get some more rest on the bus, and we'll have a good meal along the way and prepare to play Cedar Rapids.
How do you adjust? How do you use your lines? Obviously, you mentioned just a little bit ago that, you try to use more people, you try to use them different ways and stuff like that. How do you kind of have to adjust, maybe specifically your line changes a little bit just to make sure that you're using them in the right moments, but not obviously using them too much?
Yeah, I mean, like, we had 1-game weekends early in the season, and I was able to play the top guys as much as I wanted to right on through, knowing that, okay, we've got one event that we're putting it all into. So it's a lot with a 3-3. We need everybody going. We need a good balanced attack, and then you have to pay attention. Is there a lot of special teams? And because some of our players at Jackson Hallam and Ryan Green, Damon Carfania play so much on both the power play and the penalty kill that that might have to take a little bit away from their 5-on-5 play. So we're just not wearing them out, and they don't have legs for that next night.
You mentioned the stars that, between the stories we write at newradiosportsnetwork.com, between, the names that Tobin calls all the time on 104.1 WRLU, who are those people maybe, third and fourth lines on offense, the third line on defense? Who are those players that have been really impressing you as you've had to kind of go deeper into your bench, show off that depth a little bit?
Well, I think John Middlestad's line with Sawyer Scholl and Matty DeBoer have taken huge steps since the start of the year, and they give us so many quality minutes, and Johnny can take a lot of face-offs for us and start those defensive zones that are so crucial. So, they've done a lot for us. We've seen Nick Van Tassel kind of grow up in this league for a young player, along with Dominic Marteco, and take big minutes for first-year players in this league. So, those are the guys who are starting to add to that minute count every week. Going from, ideally playing up to 12 minutes a game now is great for them.
Once again, 3 games coming up this weekend, 2 games at the Ranch Center. We'll have both of those games for you on 104.1 WRLU and the New Radio Sports Network. Tobin will have those calls. And then on Sunday, one last question for you, Coach, as we try to have a little bit of fun here. You've made all these road trips dozens of times, it seems like. Is there a go-to place on your way to Cedar Rapids? You obviously won't be there in Cedar Rapids long enough to experience all the fun there, but is there a place that you kind of look forward to? Maybe it's a nice place you'll go to on the way there?
Well, with the earlier game, it kind of throws off a little adjustment. We will still eat in Dubuque like we always do. Traditionally there would be an Olive Garden, but I think it's going to be a Panera to give the guys a little bit more of an option, eating at I think it's set to be like a noon time that day. So changes our schedule a little bit with that 4 o'clock game. But Coach Peterson will have us locked in with his travel itinerary. We'll be fine.
And you got the pasta options there now as well. So you don't necessarily even need that Olive Garden to open up.
Yeah, we've got some options for the guys there, and changing things up is always good for the players too. We try to keep it a little bit of as many options as we can have, because they get bored with their pastas as we work through the year.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck this weekend, especially those 2 games once again at home on 104.1 WRLU and newradiosportsnetwork.com. Thanks as always, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
You've been listening to the New Radio Sports Network.